While God created the world, the morning stars sang together. After God delivered Israel through the Red Sea, Moses and Miriam led the people in singing. God destroyed Israel's enemies under King Jehoshaphat, while the choir sang. When Jesus was born, the angels sang, and before going to the cross, he sang. God rejoices over us with singing, and one of the only things we know for certain that everyone will be doing in heaven is singing. At New St. Andrews College, we understand that music is not an elective. It is central to our being and identity. We endeavor to train all our students in a joyful and robust musical literacy that will help them shape culture in a Christ-like direction wherever they go. Additionally, we offer the Certificate of Music in conjunction with our bachelor's degree in liberal arts and culture for students who desire extra music training beyond the regular music courses they will take as a part of the core curriculum. In the certificate program, you won't simply appreciate music or listen to it or talk about it. You will do music. You will study it, analyze it, read it, write it, sing it, and play it. You will receive private instruction in your primary instrument, as well as secondary lessons in voice, piano, conducting, and other instruments. You will receive a solid foundation in music theory and analysis. You will study music history, church music, and music pedagogy. And when you graduate, you will leave with the ability to sing, play, understand, and steward music in whatever church or community you plant yourself. I'm Dr. David Erb, and this is the Certificate of Music at New St. Andrews College.
Hey y'all, it's Monday. Welcome to Cross Politics. Pastor Toby Chuck Knox on the Water Boy, and we got Dr. Ben Merkle, President of New St. Andrews, our corporate partner, in the house.
El Presidente. Hey, this show is brought to you, well, actually it's brought to you by Haley's Cinnamon Rolls.
Ooh,
oh my goodness.
You missed out on those.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Did Doctor not get a cinnamon roll? You want a cinnamon roll?
We don't have none.
They were like
ripped off. One left. We don't have any more.
They're well,
they're all gone.
Anyways, let's stop and take a moment to talk about Fight Laugh Feast Club membership.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I don't know why we like that first line. Let's stop and take a moment.
It's just like a moment of silence.
Do we do that? Yeah. But I'm going to talk now. By joining the Fight Laugh Feast Army, not only will you be aiding in our fight to take down secular and legacy media, but you'll also get access to content placed in our club portal, such as past shows, all our conference talks, and exclusive content for club members that you won't be able to find anywhere else. Lastly, you'll also get discounts for our conferences. Oh. Speaking of which, Gabe just handed me a proposed schedule for the Ark Encounter.
Yes.
Boom. Sign up now at fightlaughfeast.com and make us great.
Good. That was good. Your ad read was almost as good as.
Can we just talk about the Ark Encounter for a little bit?
For a minute?
Just for a sec. Just I know it's quick.
Okay.
We got to talk about it. This is like going to be a whole week experience almost. So it starts really We're hoping to start Wednesday through Saturday, right?
And maybe a bourbon tour somewhere in there.
Bourbon tour because we're in Kentucky.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that makes sense.
So
yeah, I mean, with the time slots here, I mean, that makes sense because we want to make sure everybody has time to visit the Creation Museum.
That's right.
Then actually time to tour the Ark Encounter.
Right. Mm-hmm.
There's breaks.
This is you want to save a family vacation is the Fight Laugh Feast conference.
So basically October 11th through the 14th roughly, and it might be we might throw a couple more things in there before we get there.
My family was already saving up for a vacation this year, and when we decided to do this, I was like, guys, guess what? Yeah. All those funds, they go into this.
We're going to the
family road trip.
Yeah.
Yes.
Put it on the calendar now.
So Toby again was in the news.
Well, yes.
You were in the news. We're making the news here.
Yes.
So
way to go. Cheers, man. Pastor.
Thank you.
Praise God.
Yeah.
Go do it.
In the Idaho Statesman.
Yeah, that's right. So Israel Waitman actually texted me and you this article also.
I saw it.
Apparently, we want God's law to reign in Idaho. The Idaho Statesman did this really odd article on the Idaho Family Policy Institute, which is Blaine Kanzati. He's been on the show before. Center. What?
Completely different things.
Is it? Okay.
Especially if you want to find it and give money to it.
Center. Okay. Yeah. Very good. And Blaine was interviewed. So Blaine is working on legislation to ban transgender drag shows in Idaho.
Right.
And we used to live in this world where like that was normal.
Yeah.
Like not having trans drag shows, not even have to put legislation forward to have that.
You'd think that public obscenity laws would already cover it. Dudes in women's underwear twerking in front of kids.
Yeah.
And off the show, we were joking that we need to make me a black face transgender person and go testify at the city council meeting.
Well, the point was that people they're not getting it. They're not getting that this is blackface for women, right? That's what they're not getting.
So how bad can we?
How can we then speak a language in which if you show up there black-faced, dressed up as a woman, and you would walk in and they would say, "Oh, this is racist." It's like,
oh, but he's in drag.
But did you see the rest of him?
He's got a dress on.
He's got a dress on, acting to be like a woman, just like he's acting to be black. And do you see how this is horrible? You get the.
We need a prophet.
Alex Stein
and Ezekiel.
Yeah, Alex Stein. Go do it.
So, anyways, in this article, Blaine's quoted a couple times. One of his quotes is he says, "I would identify as a Christian nationalist," and then he goes on to say, "The only objective basis for law is biblical law."
Facts.
Like pretty simple stuff. But what was odd about the article, Toby, what was your quote in here?
It was at the end. I was quoted as saying that only the Christian God sent his son to die for you.
That's right.
Well, that got you in trouble, huh?
Yeah. Among those who believe this is Pastor Toby Sumter, a recent guest on Kanzati's podcast dealing with the law of God in public square. He posed the question, why follow Christian law rather than some other religious law? So Blaine must ask you that question. And Toby's response was, what God sent his son to die for you? What God took the curse of rebel men and women? What God endured that for you? The only God, the triune God, the Christian God, the Muslim God did not send his son for you.
Facts.
The Mormon God did not send his son to die for you.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. In fact. But the reason why they brought, I think, that quote into it is because they kind of brought this weird Mormon sentimentalism into this, where apparently when Idaho first started, Mormons weren't allowed to vote and hold office.
Right.
And so they were bringing that up like, hey, Mormons, if Christians get in charge again, then they're also going to make drag shows illegal too. That's kind of how they were bringing it up,
right? Right. And if they outlaw drag queens, the next thing they're going to do is
Mormons' right to vote.
Mormons from voting. He actually raises in there. He says you should wonder whether or not you'd actually be allowed to worship Mormons. Go to have your church services if the Idaho Family Policy Center has their way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, you won't. No.
The funny thing is, I thought that the legislation he was working on was actually a ban on minors in drag shows.
Yeah.
That's not how the article. Yeah, that's not how the article represented it.
No.
So it was actually specifically just you can't sexualize, 12-year-old boys.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all it was. But they make this into something completely different.
Right. Well, it's a bunch of they quote some Iranian law as sort of Sharia law. They're like, this reminds me of, and then they
slippery slope.
But that's what
when they threw homosexuals off a cliff in Iran.
But the whole thing is a slippery slope argument, basically saying, but the actual bill, the legislation that the Idaho Family Policy Center I think is working on, it would prohibit doing drag shows for children, I think, is the primary thing, and where children are present, and maybe it restricts them in public places, but it's to protect children.
Yeah.
And he argues from that, if we can't have men in girls' underwear dancing in front of little kids, then the next thing they do is they're going to be banning Mormons from holding office,
voting.
and acting like Islamic terrorists or something.
While they might get the trajectory wrong about where this is going, what they don't get wrong is that one thing leads to another. Mm-hmm. And there is a conclusion to this at the end of the day. This is going to go somewhere. It's going to have an impact in society and culture. They absolutely get that right, unlike Christians. This is how we currently got to the place we're at right now, because Christians start seeing these little things, and then we get gay marriage. Like, whoa, where did that come from? Yeah. Well, we did something.
The homosexuals knew that play.
They knew it, so they can see the plays. They're able to understand that there's plays being run. They can't see the trajectory of this. They don't even know this creates better human flourishing by trying to protect our children. We're trying to pull things back because of plays that's been run on us. So they see the plays. Christians don't see the plays. For a long, long time, Christians have been out here talking about it's important that we have a foundational standard to understand law. Biblical theology, Deuteronomy, that is the foundational standard for law. Everyone's like, no, theonomy, no.
Yeah.
And it's funny to me now how everybody's a theonomist all of a sudden. Everybody. I don't care who you are. I don't care what ministry you're from. You pick it. G3, Founders, Desiring God. Well, Desiring God.
John MacArthur?
The John MacArthur.
I don't know about Desiring God.
Only thing we're arguing about is what type of theonomist we are.
Yeah.
Nobody is questioning whether or not God's law should be applied anymore to society and culture.
right.
We're only asking.
Should the Bible be the basis for our societal morals?
Right.
Yeah.
20, 25 years ago, 15 years ago, nobody really wanted to have that conversation. Theonomists was pushed way back into the people that have the conversation. Those are our crazy cousins.
Yeah.
Now everybody's arguing, how do we apply that again? What is the...
Yeah. So we're going to get into, and we're actually still going to get into it, but we got these series of videos of Biden in the White House on Sunday talking with the trans community and so forth, and we were going to go from there. But then I saw this article pop up in the AP. This is actually an AP article on Saddleback's new pastor, Andy Wood. He's the new pastor replacing Rick Warren, and talking about how he sees, women as clergy in the future of the clergy church as clergy. So and it came off the heels of him literally in their church ordaining his wife as pastor in Saddleback. So now they
did what?
They co-pastor.
And Saddleback is SBC.
And Saddleback is SBC.
I didn't know that.
But it got me thinking.
I didn't know that till last year when
it's
at
SBC.
the SBC,
Wow. Yep.
Rick Warren got up to speak in favor of women pastors.
Or not fighting over it, at least.
Not fighting
Right?
over it. Oh, yeah.
Because you got a major in the major and minor in the minors.
Oh, got it.
And women
Right.
pastors is minoring, I guess.
Can't
Which
see
was
the
an
point. So did he get kicked out the SBC?
No, they didn't get kicked out.
So the Baptist Faith and Message
SBC
doesn't
is
allow
still
for
there.
this.
But this is what
They
got
have
me
a
thinking.
study committee.
Oh, they're still...
They
that's
pulled
right.
a Presbyterian move.
Trying to figure out what a woman is.
I think a lot of Christians think, oh man, our country's starting to be judged because of the Democrats, or our country's starting to be judged because of homosexual marriage or Burgerfell or whatever. But it really gets you to think that like the reason why America is being judged is because of the church. Judgment begins in the house of God. And we're sitting here, in Idaho, we're trying to keep, drag shows from happening to 12-year-olds.
Right.
And here's Rick, Saddleback and Andy Wood basically transgendering the pulpit.
Right.
Putting a woman in the pulpit when it's an office for men.
People need to
Go ahead.
People need to remember Romans 1. We read it a lot, but you need to remember the actual order. It says that you reject God, you don't give thanks to God, you don't recognize God and worship Him rightly, and then it says that God gives them over to insanity.
Right. So it starts with worship in the house of God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It starts with not worshiping God rightly, not acknowledging God for who He is and acknowledging His attributes and His creation and His lordship over creation. And then you're given over. You begin serving the creature rather than the creator. Worship gets distorted. And so Gabe's not wrong at all. The fact that when you start messing with the creation order, male, female, and Paul ties whether a woman can preach or teach or not to this very thing. He says, man was made first, then woman. This is the order of creation. This is not a cultural thing. Yeah. You get that wrong, then God gives you over to all manner of insanity, all manner of folly. Why do we have men dressed up like women, gaudy,
because we have women dressed up like men in the pulpits,
clown women, and it's that madness, that insanity. Its root is the church not worshiping God rightly, and I think that we can't say that enough.
Hey Ben, which one do you think we actually lost first? Do you think we lost it in the home first, or do you think we lost it in the church first? The roles and offices of women, because what my brothers are talking about is absolutely right. There's offices that are sexed. You can't take them away from each other. There's certain offices that are sexed. Father's a sexed office, right? You can't remove that from the duty. So a woman can't be a father. That's not possible,
right?
Because the office is sexed. Which one do we lose first? The church?
I think it starts from the pulpit, and it's not just swapping women in for men preaching. It's men. It's preachers starting to have an effeminate understanding of what their office is. So when I speak, what am I speaking to? I think we talked about this a little bit in the time in Wenatchee, where am I speaking to culture, to the world? Do I have an understanding of the gospel that is supposed to inform and shape the whole world? Or do you start to narrow the gospel to it's a emotional consolation to your heart applied just to here?
Come on now.
And once you narrow narrow that gospel message down, then you really change what the pulpit is.
Right.
And I think that as the pulpit transitions to that, then all of a sudden, men don't know what it is to be a man.
So easy, a woman can do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and frequently it's the job description has been so redefined and transitioned that a woman can do it better.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not just that a woman can do it. It's actually probably better for a woman.
Right.
I think that it's more fitting that way.
And when people say that, and I've heard, people have told me this before, they'd be like, I know the Bible says this, but really in this situation, in this church, this woman really was a great pastor.
And better than other pastors.
And I'm willing to grant probably the way that you have redefined what the church is and what the pastoral ministry is, she probably is better at it than any man would be.
If you change the gospel into an emotionally therapeutic message, then I think that actually probably is a better way of representing it from the pulpit.
A maternalistic care for you.
But if you take the gospel as the postmillennial message that's to subdue this earth, it's a very different kind of thing.
Right.
My goodness.
If the pastor is the lead commanding officer, if the pastor is the lead Navy SEAL, in a platoon, in a military unit, called to fight the good fight, to bring the sword of the gospel to bear on sin, the world, the flesh, the devil, you need a man for that.
That's really interesting because I think a lot of people, I hear a lot of men feeling like, I left my church because I wasn't close to my pastor. It's like, you're not close to your general. You're not close to your platoon.
I know.
We didn't have this bond. We weren't close. He didn't give me the pats on the back. And it's like they think of
the church as some kind of little,
mommy didn't love me the way that, and so because of that, they feminized the whole thing, and they're not getting. They don't even know that they need to man up.
Right.
And that's a whole.
So this is all the backdrop of what's going on behind the White House and what Biden's doing here right now. Check out this clip. So this is. Now this segment was filmed at the White House, and here's
with Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah, go.
Mr. President, this is my 221st day of publicly transitioning.
God love you.
Thank you. I am extremely privileged to live in a state that allows me access to the resources I need, and that decision is just between me and my doctors. But many states have lawmakers that feel like they can involve themselves in this very personal process. Do you think states should have a right to ban gender-affirming health care?
I don't think any state or anybody should have the right to do that. As a moral question and as a legal question. I just think it's wrong. I think I was saying before we started that my deceased son, used to be the Attorney General of the state of Delaware. He passed the broadest piece of legislation that he, as Attorney General, was able to convince the legislature and the governor to sign that dealt with all gender-affirming capability. I mean, there's a lot of, sometimes they try to block you from being able to access certain medicines, being able to access certain procedures, and so on. None of that should be available. I mean, no state should be able to do that, in my view. So I feel very, very strongly that you should have every single solitary right, including use of your gender identity bathrooms in public.
Thank you.
Your music actually really helped that video a lot better. That was good.
I thought it was very fitting.
Yeah,
that's Mr. Potato Head there.
Ben, you get first stab at this. Go ahead after you.
You just look sad.
I'm trying to come back to reality. I really am.
It is just. It's grotesque. It's really sad because this is somebody who's been mutilated,
right?
And they're attempting to pass this mutilation off as this right to the rest of America. One just interesting side note. I remember right after Roe got struck down, there was a email from a college president saying, this is terrible, and I know this is going to disproportionately impact our LGBTQ community, and I'm trying to think. How does the loss of abortion disproportionately impact? and this is just a world that it just does not make sense. I mean, you have these
carry to one.
We say these passionate things, and you replace all that logic just with passion, and everybody's supposed to go with it because makes no sense.
Right.
Toby, what I want you to read the ad, and then I want to get
go ahead.
I want to turn.
Oh,
I
really?
want to
Just
turn
like
this.
that? Just like that. I'm going to go right into an ad.
I'm going to turn some things here.
Oh, my.
I'm still trying to figure out how in the world it affects. I'm going to figure that out.
Do the math. Do you own a business and write a lot of proposals?
Ooh.
If so, you should check out smartpricingtable.com. Smart Pricing Table allows you to create quick and accurate proposals, and it's loaded with features like recurring fees, quantities, and line item upsells. Whatever those are. When your prospect is ready, they can e-sign and you're off to the races. Visit smartpricingtable.com and mention CrossPolitic to get 25% off your first 2 months.
I want one of those things to upsell. I like that.
I'm glad Toby doesn't know what a line item upsell is. I'm glad my pastor doesn't know that.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. That's actually a good thing. So,
Bernie.
That was what he did.
Was that what he did?
We were trying to remember earlier what Gabe did on the Wenatchee show.
To have Doug and Toby lose it.
I couldn't catch my breath.
all over.
He did a breadline Bernie.
That's what got it.
Good thing.
That show will drop on Wednesday or Thursday, so just pay attention. The
Sometime
Wenatchee
this
Live,
week.
so you'll be able to see what happened there.
That's hilarious.
Okay, so this same panel, this episode, they get into education. And of course, which is where all this is going.
This is why we brought our specialist on the show.
We don't want to just change the law. We got to disciple the people and raise them up into this transgender culture. That's where they're going in the panel, right? And so I want you to play the video where the gal asked the question to Biden about. It's the last video basically where where the gal asked the question. Yes, this is the one.
I wanted to set myself and my family up for long-term financial security by getting a college degree. But it comes at a huge cost, which makes it harder for me to help my family stay afloat and pay for my brother's brain cancer treatments. For people of color, the path to true financial security is often paved with advanced degrees. Yet the cost of simply getting a bachelor's degree can be the largest burden we bear financially. Federal student loan forgiveness will make a big difference, but it feels like the system itself is broken in some ways. What can your administration, working with Congress, do to help break this vicious cycle that is hurting the future of young people seeking an education for a better life?
I used to have a good friend I went to high school with. And I say, Bob, do you understand me? He said, Joe, I not only understand you, I overstand you. I overstand. I got into a private university when I was out of high school. And
can we just stop for a second?
Pause a minute. I overstand you. I'm going to work this into one of my talks somewhere, some way, or one of our shows.
We got that from Gabe.
Yeah, I not only understand you, but I overstand you.
Okay, whoever is at the White House that are writing this stuff, y'all stop watching Gabe. Y'all stop watching him and giving President Biden. All right.
Okay, go ahead.
I couldn't go there. And I had to work, which is not a problem, to go to the University of Delaware, which is much, much cheaper. Now, just in the last 40 years, the four-year university cost of a four-year university has tripled in the last 40 years to go to the school to begin with. Pell Grants used to cover 80% of a college tuition. Now it's down to about 30%.
Ben, how do you overstand that?
Do you overstand that?
We're still clear.
Does the government have a role to play in lowering the cost of college education?
Well, no, because mostly what they do is they raise the cost.
Right.
All of that federal money, every time they student loan forgiveness, Pell Grants, all of that, what it does is it causes colleges to raise tuition.
Right.
So if he says the college price has tripled in the last 40 years. That actually sounds conservative to me. Yeah. But if you look at the price of healthcare and look at the climb in the cost of healthcare, college education has doubled the increase in healthcare. Okay. And yet over this last 40 years, I would say our healthcare has actually gotten quite a bit better, whereas our college education has actually gotten quite a bit worse.
Yeah.
I think you could really show how it doesn't do what it used to do.
So you're saying like medication has gotten better over time?
And if I had a choice between going to a hospital now versus 40 years ago, I'd take now. The healthcare is significantly better.
As long as they don't give me that jab.
That's right.
but the people you say who are going to college to get education, they're not get any better. The education hasn't gotten any better.
No, it's pretty clear that college has gotten a lot worse. And part of it, I mean, her presupposition, first of all, I think just right out of the starting block, she was she's giving this impression that a college degree is a guaranteed financial security to your future.
Right.
Which that's really atrocious that you would think that.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, like the idea that I can sell you this piece of paper that will promise you a salary, that's not the way work works. That's not the way jobs work. Right. And along with that is this idea that if you don't have that piece of paper, you can't go out and work and you can't go out and be financially successful, which is just completely untrue.
Well, how do you get people at your college? Because everybody believes that you do know.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I promise that what I'm giving them is an education, not a guaranteed job. And education is actually, this is a thing that has happened with colleges. We've overpromised, and then in overpromising, we're no longer delivering what a college education used to be, which was actually a far deeper thing. So we overpromise by saying, you get this degree, it will get you this job. And that's how all college recruitment works now. Here's the list of salaries for different vocations. Here's the degree that gets you that job. And this is how you get this degree, you get that job. That's how you talk people into taking out student loans. I mean, it's a ridiculous idea to get an 18-year-old to take out massive debt. And I've said this before, it's the only loan you can qualify for by showing that you can't pay it back. So how do you get a
that's our education system reasoning too, right? It's like,
how do you get somebody to sign up for something like that? Well, you tell them that if you get this degree, then you'll get this job, which means this salary and your future's all promised to you. It doesn't ever work out like that. It's not nearly as certain as that. But that's what you tell people. But in doing that, we've radically cheapened what a college education actually is. We've made it into this small little thing, which is vocational certification, rather than this much deeper thing, which was an education. That is teaching you how to think and how to be a better human, and particularly how to be someone who knows how to glorify God in all aspects of your life. That's what education really ought to be pointing people towards. And vocation is one piece of that, but it's a small piece of that compared to everything else.
Why is the federal government so concerned about education? Particularly, I mean, they got high schools, I get that, K through 12, that makes sense to me, right?
Yeah.
But college particularly, like they are really digging in and trying to cover the debt of all this. What is the play between is there something that's inside of the college education that the government needs, or what's?
I think so. I think that it's the link between your college degree and the economy, because the government has come to believe that it's in charge of the American economy, that it's the government's job to regulate the economy, and then the door into the economy, if they can make it clear that the door into the economy is the college degree, and they own that, then they own the whole financial system, and they own the economy.
If you own the entrance, you own everything that follows
exactly.
from there.
I mean, it's so weird that our government believes that I can shut economy down for COVID. Right. I'm just going to shut everything down, and then I'll open it back up with no consequences. I mean, it's ridiculous to think that authority belongs there.
Do you think?
Oh man,
I was going to ask something else, and then you just said that, and you've been the New St. Andrews recently did this big ed ad, and it's connected. They're the big government connected to big ed.
Yeah.
What's that connection?
Well, so basically we're riffing off of the whole too big to fail mentality that we saw in the financial crisis, where you have certain industries where you say this used to be an independent industry, but then it becomes so essential to American life that if that was to go down, we believe it would be too catastrophic for America. So the government needs to step in and artificially support it. But what happens is when the government steps in to artificially support it, now the government steps in to actually own it.
Control it.
It's a government entity now, because they're controlling it.
Because now their budget is built off of government intervention and support.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the way it is for most colleges and universities.
Right.
We absolutely depend on the federal government and the funding from the federal government to stay alive. And so now the federal government has complete control over that whole industry.
And so now you can have a president come in and say, like, what did Obama do? Like the Title IX applies to transgenderism.
The Dear Colleague letters,
Yeah, and you have to let boys into women's bathrooms, just like President Biden said actually in that earlier clip to Mr. Potato Head. And now you have and if your budget is built off of all these Pell Grants and government loans, how are you going to say no.
Right.
Especially if you're a Christian college or a conservative college that believes in biblical morals.
And this is the thing that people don't realize. You understand with your large state university, okay, this is probably government funding that's holding up. You've got a huge chunk of their budget is from their state allocation. And then inside tuition, you've got federal money through the Pell Grants and student loans. But most of your private Christian colleges, they don't have that state money, but they have an increased slice from the federal money. So private colleges take more from the federal government than
even the
than
state
public
schools.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you can't. Okay, you might want to go backstage because that's where we about to go. Because I got some questions for you, Doc. If you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politics.
We need to ask him what we need to do about this.
Well, I want to talk about that too, but I want to talk about...
It is the duty of the free man to resist tyranny at every turn. Every man will either watch his freedom stripped away or take action to protect what he loves. Introducing the A3, the newest revolutionary body armor from Armored Republic. The A3 is the new standard for lightweight multi-hit body armor. A3 plates are incredibly light at 4.6 pounds. The patented design captures fragmentation while remaining multi-hit capable. The A3 will stop up to M80 ball, yet comes in at only 0.7 inches thick. The A3 is the thinnest NIJ .06 compliant or certified composite standalone plate that includes the drop test. The A3 is the first of its kind, patent pending, that combines an alloy strike face with polyethylene backing, revolutionizing body armor technology by providing strength and durability while remaining sleek and maneuverable. The A3 is the new standard in lightweight body armor. The fight against tyranny just got stronger.
This is where Dave and I plan this year's company holidays.
Let's go through the list.
Easter,
Too religious.
St. Patrick's Day?
Too white.
Mother's Day,
Way too cisgendered.
all of your usual holidays have been canceled this year.
But we still have Karl Marx's birthday!
Need a real reason to party? Find a new job at redballoon.work.